Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti. Today we are going to talk about the budget announcement that happened in India yesterday. There are many events that are going on right now. The elections are coming and a lot of activity is happening in India with reference to election. From the NRI point of view, Pravasi Divas was held in India, as well as the massive Kumbh Mela. To discuss all these issues, including some key issues in the United States that we are experiencing here, notwithstanding the chill, the polar vortex that has attacked many parts of the Midwest and northern USA. We escaped it in the New York area, particularly it was not as bad or as severe. To discuss all these issues, we will talk with Dr. Rakesh Sharma, who has been a visitor here earlier. And Rakesh ji recently visited India to participate in the first ever Kumbh Mela, if I'm right?
That's right.
And the first ever Pravasi Divas. So this is interesting because we read about things in the newspapers, but to hear the first-hand impressions, good, bad and ugly, what can be done better, perhaps. We will talk about that. But about the budget to begin with. What I wanted to say was that we all know that it's the economy is stupid, the famous statement, that determines the future of the people as much as it affects the political parties. Economic populism is the name of the game, is the mantra. You can see it in the United States that they are all talking about 70 or 90% tax rates. The rich must pay more. And that is the vocal cry in the United States. In India, it's a very different thing altogether. This was the sixth budget presented by this government. Therefore, you have to remember, this is not a budget that will go actionable after the election. Depends on who wins. But if BJP and NDA win this election, then this is the path forward for the rest of the country. So we will examine it from that point of view. I'm not going to read out to you what is in the budget. You can read it in Google, Times of India, Indian Express, or whatever you read. So I'm not going to tell you about the specific aspects of the budget. Tax kitna kam hua, kitni relief kahan gayi. But what I'm going to talk about is the impact of some of the key pronouncements that have happened. To me, the one thing that struck me very, very importantly was the fact that their government is proposing a social security net for people working in the unorganized sector, whereby after age 60, they will be able to get 3,000 rupees per month as a social security net if they participate in the program by allocating certain part of their resources to that, the government will match it. To me, living in the United States, where the net of social security is so assuring to people who have been in the work life, this is a very important thing to happen. In addition to the fact, I felt when I read about the budget, heard about it, is the fact that there is a definite concerted effort to move the country forward. Remember, the fall from the mountain is always easy. It's the climb on the mountain is always tough. So as I have said in this program earlier, what I want to repeat here, India has been suffering from obesity of corruption, obesity of slow growth. Until post-1991 things have changed, but India was a 3% Hindu rate of growth economy. It's now we are talking about 7.2, virtually doubling it. So that is the focus of the budget, is how much growth Indian economy can handle, taking into account the sectors that are suffering. And we will talk about that in detail a little later. Let me also begin with asking Dr. Sharma that, as a physician, as a healthcare provider, the government has said something that they will bring about stress-free health by year 2030. How realistic do you think it is? Can it be done faster? What are the aspects of this budget that struck you?
Thank you, Mr. Jha. As you mentioned, I just returned from India this week after attending Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, Kumbh Mela and Republic Day Parade. But let's talk about Indian budget presentation and some of the salient points that really are welcoming. As you mentioned, India has been thinking hard on the lines of what we have in US, like Social Security. So recently, the budget that they introduced, they came up with an idea that if someone puts in roughly 55 rupees a month,
100 rupees, actually.
100 rupees
per month, yeah.
And they will be eligible to get 3,000 rupees per month as kind of monthly income after the age of 60. I think that's very good, although 3,000 rupees a month is not a big number.
Right.
And that too in future, but it's something that older people can look forward to once they're retired.
You are absolutely right that 3,000 rupees number doesn't look magnanimous. But as we know in this country, you can get Social Security of 1,500 or you can get 2,000 depending
That's
on
right.
your situation,
Yep.
how much you have contributed in it. So I would say this is a fantastic start
Absolutely.
in that regard.
Yeah.
So please
So
carry on.
even if they get 3,000 rupees a month, if they contribute more, maybe a little more, and that's very welcoming, and it just shows the depth in which Modi government has been thinking. It's not the amount, it's the point that they're trying to make. That's number one. And number two, they have also increased the limit on the income that they can charge income tax on. It used to be 3 lakh rupees a year, and they are actually suggesting no income tax up to 5 lakh rupees a year income,
Right.
which is also quite good. That means if you are making roughly 40,000 rupees a month, you won't have to pay any income tax.
And the fascinating thing about that is that even if you are, if you take advantage of the tax breaks that the government is providing you, you may not have to pay tax even if your income is 8.5 lakhs or so. So there has been incentivization
Yeah.
of the program, the tax structure, which has been hailed by people in the middle class particularly. So go ahead.
And
go ahead.
anyone who lives in India is watching this program or may watch this program, I'll tell them a trick what to use this for evading any income tax.
Don't use the evading. Use the word
Or not to
planning.
pay, or not to pay any income tax.
Yeah.
Indian government also has a very nice plan where if you have an employer and they are paying you some kind of tip, which in a better term called gratuity. If they pay you gratuity up to 3 lakh rupees at the end of your 5 years of employment, that income is not taxable either. And Modi government has just increased that number from 10 lakhs to 30 lakhs. So what that means is if you work for some corporation or for some employer, tell them not to give you too much money every month. Just take 40,000 rupees per month on which you don't have to pay any tax. Tell them to put in another 50,000 rupees a month in your account, not to pay you, work for them for 5 years, get 25 lakh rupees, and that 25 lakh rupees at the end of 5 years is going to be totally tax-free. Because they are going to increase that up to 30 lakh.
This is absolutely fascinating. A doctor giving an accounting advice, right?
That's
I love it. I love it because I know, like in every budget there is a number play going on, right?
Yeah.
And then the accountants get into the thing. So now you adopted accounting profession to give them an advice how to make adjustments. All right, you should have charged royalty for this.
That's right. So get 25 to 30 lakh rupees after working for them for 5 years, and up to 30 lakh rupees will be tax-free income for you. So do that. So live little below average for 5 years, and then get lump sum 30 lakh rupees, no income tax to be given, buy an apartment somewhere in India. That's another fascinating thing. There are a few other things that this budget provides that is for poor people, like for farmers. I think they're going to put 6,000 rupees a year in their account directly for small farmers. And they have also increased the individual deduction up to 50,000 rupees. So those are very good points that Modi government is providing to what we call middle class people or poor people and take advantage of that. And 3 cheers for Modi government. And Social Security or the monthly income or pension as they have called it after the age of 60, only 3,000 rupees, but it's something which can grow later on if this process is adopted. I'm sure in 4, 5, 10 years, this 3,000 rupees is going to increase to 5 or 10, and that's what older people will need once they retire.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, like the Prime Minister said after the budget was presented, this is the trailer of the budget, which means that elect us and you will see many more things to happen. What I'm impressed was that this is not a promise-driven budget. It's not promises to keep. It is actually indicating, laying the path forward, which is very important because most of the time, as the saying goes, you can make the promise as much as you want because if you don't have to give, it's easy to make the promise. But here is not the promise of. It is the performance-driven, and this is showing the path forward. One of the things, most important things about this budget or this, the elections are coming in 2019, and one of the most important things has been for the government of India, this particular party has been that they have been able to contain inflation.
That's right.
Which has been the major tax burden on middle and lower income people. And they have, on an average basis, they have kept inflation low in the last 5 years. That has provided massive relief to people. This is a singular achievement in a 5-year term. Forget about the currency crisis that happened, which in my opinion was highly manipulated, and it was a game played on the country at that point in time to shake people's faith in the Prime Minister and the new government and the government. The other part which is very important, we have seen, you and I both have seen, Indian infrastructure sucked, to put the American slang into that. Indian infrastructure was the reason why many places the growth couldn't be done. I mean, there was a time when many cities and industries had to suffer power cuts every week, every day, and that impacted the performance all along. So the focus on infrastructure, on road building has been phenomenal. And I mean, if you see many parts of the country, the road construction work has gone on, and this Prime Minister is focusing on the infrastructure very seriously. And one more thing is that we talked about inflation, infrastructure, social security net, and in this budget, what I see is middle class, although middle class is vanishing in America, but middle class in India is still a big deal. And he has provided a lot of relief on that account.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other points that I would mention, even if you make more than 5 lakh rupees a year, there is an incentive for you. The tuition fee can be deducted. And also I also read that up to 40,000 rupees that you have deposited in your bank or post office account, the interest on up to 40,000 rupees is not taxable.
No, taxable.
So those are good points for people who are lower middle class and they don't have lakhs of rupees in the bank. And that's about the budget thing. And as we all understand, when election year comes, budget is always made sweeter for voters. So this does have some sweetness in it,
right,
even if government didn't want to, but they are extending to more and more people so that they can benefit. And as I understand, they have put in 500 crore rupees to accommodate certain part of the society. That's what all the governments do. And Modi government has done the same thing. But indirectly, it's going to benefit people who don't make too much money, and that's a welcome step.
Right, and talking about the infrastructure part of it, one of the most significant one is the clarion call and declaration that India must aim to become a food exporting country. If you want to become food export country, then you have to have cold storages to maintain. You have to run successful cold storages for distribution of food within, to feed 1.2 billion people and to be able to export. So that I find is a real important step taken in this budget.
Can I add one thing on
Please
this?
do. Please do.
While flying from India to US, I had a magazine given to me in the plane. It's called Business, I think Business World or so. There was an article that this year the sugarcane crop was so good in India that there's going to be so much surplus of sugar in India. India consumes 17,000 tons of sugar, and they are going to produce 22 tons.
22,000 tons.
22,000 tons. So they have so much sugar production in India, more than the consumption. So that will be exported. And the good news is that the sugar prices have actually come down in the last 2-3 years because there's surplus of sugar.
Right. I mean, we'll talk about these matters soon after this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Continuing our conversation about the Indian economy, Indian political scene, one of the things which has made a huge march forward is the digitization of India's economy. Digitization in terms of payments, digitization of record keeping. As a result of which, the old style of business is kind of on a difficult times. People are not able to do that much cash transaction. So Sharma ji, ये तो digitization is a good thing. Paytm आया, वगैरह वगैरह सब कुछ हुआ. But the human mind is a very ingenious thing. While the payment mechanization, digitization will lead to reduction in corrupt practices, cash transactions, it will also create greater transparency. Do you think that it will impact the corrupt practices to curb down, or do you think that human ingenuity would lead to finding some way to defeat the process?
Well, in the beginning, I think people may not like paying through the credit cards because they have been used to paying through cash, but process always takes time. We get adapted to what we are told, but it's a little slow process. But if there is some punishment or there are strict laws, then the process will be faster. Most of the manufacturers in India have been told that there will be tax right at the time of production. So they really cannot escape that. If they are making 1,000 shirts and they are showing that they are sending 1,000 shirts out of the factory or the plant, then tax is already, GST has already been charged on that, which is included in the price when they sell it to the customer. So people will get used to it. And of course, it brings the corruption down a lot. When the transactions are not done in cash, corruption goes down, everything is transparent, everything is accountable, and slowly, public gets used to it, whether you are on the seller side or the buying side. And as we see in US, same thing will happen in India too.
Exactly. That was a point which I was trying to say, is that at a common man per level, there is very little corruption that we have seen. I have not seen anything happening in the last 20 plus years that I have been here. You don't bribe your way to get things done, but who knows what is happening elsewhere. I can talk about myself, you can talk about yourself.
Sure.
But on an aam janta level, the corrupt practices are far fewer here. And if that transparency gets to India, I think we will be very successfully happy to get rid of the badge of dishonor that we wear of corruption, or of a corrupt India or corrupt Indians. The one thing which was striking in this thing, that the finance minister made the announcement, that he said, we will have a proactive and responsive bureaucracy. The target date for that is 2030. That kind of upset me. That if you want to have a proactive and responsive bureaucracy, why do we have to set a date target for 2030? Now that is 12 years from now. I mean, I would say that bureaucracy ought to be responsive and proactive right from day one. It's public service. Why does it have to be a target? Which means it was not so far. which means the bureaucracy was not responding to the call of the people or requirement of time. We all have had our own individual experiences. This program is not where I can, bare my chest and talk about it, but we do know, and bureaucracy's help is required, and the effort of the government of India, it has been made that a lot of vertical entries, lateral entries will be made at the up to joint secretary level, where people from professions will be inducted. Guess what? The prime movers of this, prime opposers of this is the hardcore bureaucracy, because they do not want specialists to come in between. But that's the need of the hour here.
Absolutely. I think niceness or honesty starts from the top. We all know Prime Minister Modi is a very honest person, but there are a lot of other politicians underneath him, not in his party, I'm not saying in his party, but these lifelong politicians who have been used to corruption, and they need to be tackled. There needs to be a punishment. Just like in Me Too movement in India, a lot of people have been removed, including Minister Mr. Akbar. So if politicians are exposed, taking bribes or accumulating a lot of wealth, there should be punishment against them. And I don't think the target should be 2030. Target should be 2021. Give them a year or two to put their house together. No need to wait for 10, 11 years for them to be honest. Give them a year, and people will really love that. One bad story about good countries is that their politicians are very corrupt. To give you an example, we all know about India, but other countries like Nigeria, Venezuela, if there was no corruption, those countries would have been very rich.
It's a part of the common human failing.
Sure.
To immediately find a find a solace in or escape blaming the system and the process, that must stop. Now, let me talk about this here, because since Rahul Gandhi is the prime opponent of Mr. Modi, before the budget was announced, he had made a statement that his party will ensure, or the Mahagathbandhan will ensure. I don't know whether he was speaking on behalf of Mahagathbandhan or as his own party. But he said there will be a common minimum basic income for people. Now that kind of echoed in my mind is his grandmother's statement of Garibi Hatao. Now common minimum wage, it's a very tragic thing to lay down, because you create a dependency on people on the government, which if I'm getting 3,000 rupees per month, why the hell do I have to work? Right? You create dependencies, and that's the problem with the left-wing politicians in India, where they promise the moon or whatever.
Sure.
हम आपके लिए ये कर देंगे, लेकिन उसका खर्चा होता है.
Yeah.
Where will the money come from?
That's right. Just like they have promised that all the loans of the farmers will be forgiven. Well, if everybody gets forgiveness for all the loans that they take, then people are going to take risks all their lives. They won't be responsible with the money or the loan that they took.
Right.
Because they know, after all, some politician will come, he'll forgive the loans. So making these promises that everyone is going to be rich, everyone is going to be well off, or there's some minimum 10, 20, 30,000 rupee job waiting for you per month are, I think, faulty promises or not good for the society. Let able people work hard and make money as the market prices will suggest.
Right. No, this is what is also important is that one of the real challenges the world faces now, that as India is moving towards greater performances and capitalist system, where the people are now, even defense industry is getting into private sector, the trust factor is improving. People are now trusting Mr. Modi, that this man is incorruptible and he will deliver on the promises made. That was much required. How do you think the politics of Mahagathbandhan work in the Indian context? And I am of the opinion, I said this on one of my tweet comments, that if you are trying to form an entity, Mahagathbandhan, come together only to defeat Modi, because you can't individually fight and defeat him, then the purpose is that why would you not eliminate all your party structure and become one single party? Merge all your parties into one.
Sure.
Call it anti-Modi party. I don't give a damn about that.
Yeah.
But at least become an entity. Right now you have 20 different heads talking 20 different things.
Yeah, sure. That's the bad part of Indian politics, that there are so many regional parties. Every state has one or two regional parties, and that's why it's very difficult for one national party to come into majority. But somehow Mr. Modi won that during last election. Coming back to Mahagathbandhan, I think when all these parties join together against one party, that just speaks for itself, that all these other parties have nothing better to offer but just to be in opposition to try to defeat someone.
Right.
And I was in India for 9 days, and I've spoken to dozens of people.
Now I'm coming back to that. Okay. Very importantly. You started off good, go ahead, but I wanted to touch upon this aspect, your reaction after you share with us your experience of Republic Day, which is a wonderful event. And I wanted to touch upon two things specifically on Republic Day and Kumbh Mela.
Sure.
These are two events that the government of India does remarkably well, whether it's in Nashik or whether it's in Kumbh, Prayagraj, or one more place I'm forgetting, my apologies for that. But the important part is that Kumbh Mela, held every 12 years, is one of the most fabulously well organized event. Forget about people losing one another for...
Sure.
But why are we not organized on everything that we do? So share your experience about
Sure.
how it was, and then tell us why are we not so organized in regular way of life?
The problem with Indian politics, as we suggested, that too many parties, too many people, you really cannot put things together in one way, because infighting. Coming back to Kumbh Mela, I did go to India to attend Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, called PBD, or Indian Diaspora Day. These are the NRIs, or non-resident Indians, who are invited back to India. And this process was started by our ex-Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So this year was the 15th Pravasi Day, and I was there for 3 days at Varanasi. Beautiful program, and our External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj was there, UP Chief Minister Yogi was there, Prime Minister Mr. Modi was there, and so was the President of India. They spoke beautifully, and public, I think, went nuts when both Yogi and Prime Minister Modi came on the stage, of course, at different times. And I can't imagine any leader being loved as much as both of these guys are. When Yogi came, the entire stadium went up in the air, and so was with Prime Minister Modi. And they spoke very nicely, and the event was 3 days long. Yes, they spent lots of money, there was lots of security, and roughly 3,500 NRIs went there. There were some problems. I think the people who were supposed to give information were missing. They were nowhere to be found. And this is my humble suggestion to people who organize PBD every 2 years in India, that you need to have 2 or 3 booths of information center where NRIs who go there get all the information, and that was lacking. Number 2, there were hundreds of people to help, but they have no knowledge of anything that was going to happen next day. And those were 2 weaknesses that Pravasi Bharatiya Day organizers
and
had.
that is despite this being the 15th year.
That's right.
Right. So
And I can say why this happens, because every time they have this celebration, the people who are organizers are not the ones who organized 2 years ago. So there are always new faces. So you have to have experienced people run this kind of program.
And if not the experienced people, you need to establish the process.
That's right.
That regardless of who comes and who goes, the process is there. You
Yes.
know, it's like the book of instructions.
And that was one thing.
That's something, yeah.
I'm sorry, that was one thing that I found was not up to par. And number two, also the target, the goal. So it seems to me that 3 days of event did not have much goal in sight. And what was really missing was a couple of events where they should have asked the NRIs, listen, what can Indian government do for you? What problems do you face when you come to India, or when you plan to come to India, your children want to come here?
Sorry to interrupt here, but I would attribute it to the classic government mentality.
That's
in
right.
which they would say that हम सब जानते हैं आप हमें क्या बताएंगे, and they don't want to give you an opportunity to air those thoughts, because you remember one thing, once you start the chain of complaints start, it is not going to end, because everybody has their own set of grievances.
That's right.
From that point of view, I am saying that was a more defensive action than anything else.
I totally agree with you.
We have a minute.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience of the Republic Day, because that's
Okay.
one event is again outstanding thing.
Before that, I just want to say something about Kumbh Mela, which was in Prayagraj. As we know, the name has changed from Allahabad to Prayagraj. That was fantastic event, and government had spent tons of money. As I understand, they spent 4,000 crore rupees to establish Kumbh Mela site. We were treated like royals. We couldn't believe the whole Kumbh Mela site was created for us. Everything was clean, and there were buses, there were tons of people to help us. I felt that I was part of the royal family. I got such good treatment at Prayagraj. And so 3 hurrays for Yogi, who is Chief Minister of UP, and he had arranged all that. So my vote goes for him. I just want to show you a little booklet that Kumbh Mela people gave to all of
Unfolding
us.
Kumbh.
And it's a Kumbh, and which is actually every 12 years. And this is the one which is called Ardh Kumbh or Half Kumbh, and it comes after every 6 years. So in between 12 years. So this is another picture that you can see what happens there. And if I may take one more minute, I want to show you something. I don't know if you can focus that or not. These are
The
people
tents.
who were in there with me standing. You may not be able to see that.
Right.
And I did promise someone that when I go on TV program, I'm going to show their picture on TV. These are the friends I made during a Kumbh Mela and Pravasi Bharatiya Day.
Okay, good.
And these are all people that I met, became friends with. Perhaps I'll be a lifelong friends of these
That's
people.
wonderful. I mean, I'm particularly happy that your first impression, your first attendance of Kumbh Mela went so well. Now I'm encouraged. Why didn't I join you? We talked about it
We
actually.
did. Mr. Jha was supposed to come with us.
But
And
anyway,
last thing about Republic Day Parade. Again,
we'll come back to Republic
Sure.
Day Parade in the next segment. Stay tuned. See you soon, right after this break. Welcome back. We will continue to talk about the Republic Day experience. You know, that's one of the events as a school student. We used to sense it with a huge sense of pride. Republic Day events. It's a glorious event, one of the nicest things the government of India does in terms of organizing the whole parade. Tell us about that. I'm very anxious to hear that. We see on the TV all the time, but it's important to know the first-hand experience.
yes. I grew up in New Delhi, so I did go to Republic Day Parade in my high school twice.
Okay.
I think it was 1966 and 68. But this time, after 40 years or so, 50 years, I went back to India, and we were like government's guests. This whole thing after Kumbh Mela was arranged for us to attend Republic Day Parade. There were roughly 3,000 NRIs who went to attend Republic Day Parade.
You mean to say that they had provided for an enclosure or a section of the parade only for
That's
NRIs?
right.
The entire
Absolutely.
3,000 people?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So there was one
that's terrific.
section reserved for us, and all the policemen in New Delhi in that area were told we all had a special ID. So we were treated in a royal way. We were escorted in a separate line to that area, and we sat there. It was fun to watch Republic Day parade, and also at the end of the parade, Prime Minister Modi walked all the way from the stage, from India Gate all the way to Rashtrapati Bhavan, and I think the distance is roughly 1.5 miles. So he walked 1.5 miles with his bodyguards, both sides, people watching him waved, and that was very encouraging to watch. The Prime Minister walked for 1.5 miles to be very close to the public. So that event was once in a lifetime, and really loved it. And at the end of the parade, they had planes going up
Yeah.
in the air with making Tiranga Jhanda and making some acrobats by plane, and that was fun to watch. And I think this is something that will stay in my memory forever.
Forever. That's wonderful, because what is important here is that you went specifically to attend these events and you were treated royally.
Royally.
So we in NRIs were once called not required Indians. You know, like people in India somehow feel that we NRIs are traitors to the nation because we left the country and moved elsewhere for better life. Nothing can be far from truth. Actually, the non-resident Indians, we non-resident Indians who are here, I say that every Indian needs to become an NRI, and my definition of NRI is new responsible Indians. We NRIs have followed a good life here, not because we were bad or behaved badly. As once a senator told me, that we love you Indians as immigrants. You are educated, you are professionals, you are hardworking, you take care of your family, you take care of your children, you have family values, you are highest median income, you live well, you are least problematic in terms of law and order, and you ask for nothing. So we NRIs, I have said this to many Indians when I go to India, that all the Indians need to become NRIs, and that is new responsible Indians. And I think that's the sense which Modi is giving to the people of India, that there is a responsibility that comes. I mean, he's taken very bold steps. Now, that will be a subject matter for another conversation, another day.
Sure.
But I wanted to now return to our own homeland, the United States of America. There is a major logjam happening in the Congress, between Congress and President, on an issue called immigration. Now, as immigrants, none of us are against immigration. We can't say that we want only X kind of people to come and Y can't come. Asylum laws exist. You know, the question here is that what should or what this country ought to do, and how the people of this country must respond to the challenge of illegal immigration. It's not the immigration that is a problem. To my mind, I'm here as a legal person. I came here legally. So the question here is that when we call ourselves of a nation of laws, and we break the very first thing that gives you the right to live here, does it dilute the responsibility factor when people come here? So if I find that an illegal person comes here, gets food stamps, gets the social benefits, what the hell am I doing here then? Why am I spending a fortune to be here to enjoy the life and beauty and opportunities in the country? So right now, Congress is in a logjam for $5.7 billion. Remember, it's a $20 trillion plus economy, and a $5.7 billion is something, like I said, Trump and Pelosi must kiss and make up. It doesn't look a nice situation. To have a national emergency on that account is driving that 70-year plus people can also act immaturely when it comes to dealing with issues where you push your ego into matter.
I totally agree. I think if you don't want to do anything, you will come up with any excuse, and that's what Democrats have been doing. uh, as a person who knows numbers very well, you hit
Yeah, I
right.
know, yeah.
You already hit that number after 2 trillion. What is 5 billion? I will
20 trillion.
20 trillion. I'll call it a drop in the bucket.
Right.
And we all know why Democrats do not want to give $5 billion for the wall, because if they give, or if they agree for the wall, that means President Trump wins again the next election. So they do not want President Trump to keep his campaign promises. So I don't think the number itself, 5 billion, is the real reason why Democrats are so much opposed. They are not even opposed to the wall. They are opposed to the idea that Mr. Trump should not keep his election promises.
And an important thing here is that all these people who are now not willing to give money to Trump, they have spoken extremely harsh language about
Illegal
these
immigration.
illegal coming in, or the traffic must come, we must
That's
have
right.
security. And now they're suddenly open borders because it's Trump.
If you look at the previous statements 10, 15 years ago, whether it's President Obama or Speaker Pelosi, they all had made
Chuck Schumer himself.
they all had made statements they don't want illegal immigrants to enter the country through southern border. And now suddenly, all of a sudden, they love illegal immigrants. It just can't happen. Yes, immigration is an issue that politicians need to solve, but we all know that illegal thing is illegal, no matter how you call it.
Yeah.
If I do any illegal thing in this country, they'll put me in jail. So why illegal immigrant is being treated as your favorite son-in-law?
There is of course a challenge there. There are many people who come to seek a better life in India, economic opportunity or political suppression that happens elsewhere. There is an asylum scenario. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't come here or ought not come here. My thing is that when people are coming here, US can solve that problem. In my opinion, and I believe in Einstein's philosophy, that any intelligent fool can complicate a simple problem. It takes courage to take the step in the other direction. So here is one thing. 1 million people come here legally every year. So this country is 3 times larger than India, has 1/4 the population. It's a resource-rich country. It can easily absorb 100 million people overnight.
Sure.
With a reasonable infrastructure in place. My question is, why not increase the legal quota to 2 million? If you increase the H-1B quota from current 60 to 120, even that will get filled up in 1 month.
Not only that, not only for intelligent or educated people. If you really think you need labor class people, like other countries do, very civilized countries, they have work permit. You can go to Switzerland for 11 months and work there, legal work, you pay your legal tax, and after 11 months you leave the country. You can apply again next year.
Right.
USA should have similar rules where you give a work permit to someone. They may not have a college degree, but they can do whatever work they are trained to do, and give them a year of work permit. They come here, they get paid legally, they contribute towards the tax system, and legally, then they go back.
Again, no, this is that's what I say, is that this country can absorb, if India with much less size than the United States can live with 1.2 billion people, so can China and other countries. Why not us? Why not increase the limit of legal immigration from 1 million to 2 million? You know, process the job requirements, give the work permit part of it.
Sure.
And give that thing, then people will not be, will know that they don't have to wait that long in the line. Coming to that, the second topic that I wanted to talk about is something that really bothered me. I know that abortion is a real tussle between choice and life, pro-choice or pro-life. It is woman's body. Am I personally for abortion or against abortion? Doesn't matter. But what is important to know here is that life matters. You know, if you have lost a child, then you know how important it is to protect the life of a child. I lost my daughter when I was 3 years of age, when she was 3 years of age, due to an illness. But that hurts you. Now, I saw her take birth. point I'm trying to make, that how can you, I mean, New York and a couple of other states have passed legislation to abort a child even at the time of birth, other than the fact that mother's life is at danger or risk. We can't become so inhuman. That mostly it is done by Democratic Party, and I think they have lost sight, or they lost the claim to being the party of love. And it really kind of scratches your heart to know that even in the third trimester, you can abort a child. I mean, using the word abortion in the case of human life is a different matter. But you do abort plans, you do abort a strategy, and you go over to new one. What is so compelling about this as an emotional issue, psychological issue, and medical issue to go for abortion till the time of birth?
As a human being, in a civilized society, I would say that it's women's right to decide whatever that woman wants. Politicians really have nothing to do with it, but there is always a limit. Means, when do you go for abortion? Sorry, if you want to go for abortion. Speaking as a doctor, I know very well that after, first of all, as we all know, pregnancy is 9 months or roughly 38 to 42 weeks. So every trimester is 12 to 13 weeks or 3 months. So third trimester would be 24 weeks or afterwards that, or some people may say 26 weeks and after. At 24 weeks of age, a fetus is actually very, very viable. Means the statistics show that from 24 to 25 weeks of age, there's a 50 to 70% chance of fetus to survive. From 26 weeks onwards is 90% chances of survival. Viable age of a fetus is 24 weeks, but a lot of fetuses survive once they are 22 weeks of age. So after 22 weeks of age of fetus, one cannot go for abortion, or term cannot be called abortion. Or if it is called abortion, then it's totally wrong. So in third trimester, there should not be any abortion. Means you are actually killing a fetus. Of course, Christians or church might say that even at 4 weeks you are killing, which is their definition. But medically speaking, 22 weeks or after 22 weeks, the chances of survival are high. So you really cannot go for abortion. So any politician who says in third trimester, woman has a right to have abortion is totally mistaken. Perhaps he doesn't know any medicine at all, which of course most of the politicians are not doctors. They should not be making any statement. Even if woman's life is in danger at the age of 28 weeks of pregnancy, that is not abortion time. They should go for cesarean section right away, and fetus is 80 to 90% viable. So can't use that time as abortion time, and politicians who make such laws are totally ignorant, and I don't know why.
I wouldn't use the word ignorance, because the governor of Virginia, or one of these places, he's a neonatal surgeon for pediatrics.
Yeah.
For him to make a statement like that shocked the wits out of me. I can say that somebody who's uneducated makes a statement, but not in this country. Now, this is an issue which has social, moral, psychological dimensions and impact. I mean, I don't know if I would be happy if I was aborted, or my mother decided not to give birth to me in the 9th month. I do not know that. But this is an issue which the politicians are abusing. I would dare say that the politicians are abusing. Woman has a right to her body, but it's also a question of unwanted pregnancies. In the case of rape, incest, if you are raped, if Yazidi women were raped by ISIS people, I don't think any of those women would like to have a child which is born out of a scenario which is totally unacceptable. Well, on this somber note, I would say goodbye to you for this today. Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for being part of this
Thank you.
program today. Much appreciate that. And have a great weekend. Go for the Super Bowl. Let's see who wins. Whether a record is set by the youngest ever quarterback to win, or the champion of champions wins again. So have a great weekend and a good week ahead. See you next week.